Roland Mumford with Mumford.Law. Around 2005, I had the opportunity to meet Larry Flint, and he was opening up a hustler store in Nashville, Tennessee. I printed off a famous Supreme Court case that he was the party in and that he had won because his cases were some of the most instrumental cases in free speech law. I'm standing in a line with a bunch of perverts in a hustler store, and he's signing autographs, taking some pictures, and I absolutely shocked Larry Flint. Me and another lawyer, at the time I was a law student, and my friend who was a lawyer, we approached him and we're holding two Westlaw cases, printouts, and he was sort of, "What is this about?" And I said, "Sir, we're law students. We believe in the Constitution." And I said, "We'd like your autograph on this case." And there he is, standing there in a gold wheelchair with his limousine parked outside the door, security staff, and some interesting characters around him, again, in a line full of perverts. And he spoke to us for almost 10 minutes. He was so shocked that a soon to be lawyer and a lawyer came up to him and took him seriously in that moment. He kind of spoke to us off to the side, and I enjoyed that conversation. Now, I'm not promoting or condoning or not condoning what he did for a living and his quote art. I'm not passing any opinions on that. But what I do believe in is free speech. I have many cases where I represent YouTubers and others that have been falsely arrested by police because they engaged in free speech and police retaliated. Or I represent government employees that were fired because they did not want to participate in their boss's political campaign or they supported their boss's political opponent. So that brings us to the topic of our video today, which is what we're going to talk about. What started as a peaceful political rally in a quiet Alabama town quickly escalated into a moment that is now drawing national scrutiny. At the center of it all was a 61-year-old woman, an inflatable costume, and a confrontation with police that raises serious legal questions about free speech, police authority, and the limits of protest rights. Today, we break down what happened, what the law says, what potential civil rights claims could come out of this incident, where the legal line exists between protected expression and unlawful or lewd conduct, how local ordinances can be challenged in federal court, whether wearing a provocative costume like this is actually illegal, how past landmark cases guide the analysis, and the difficult question of how free speech intersects with community standards and exposure to children. The event took place during the No Kings political rally along Greeno Road in Fairhope, Alabama, a demonstration centered on opposition to political figures and government authority. Among the crowd was Renea Gamble, a 61-year-old protester who stood out not just for her message, but for her appearance. Gamble was wearing an inflatable costume, which was a penis, a large penis, while holding a political sign critical of President Donald Trump. She had a sign that effectively said dictator. At some point during the rally, Fairhope police officers approached Gamble, and what followed was an interaction that escalated quickly. While full details and perspectives vary, video clips circulating online appear to show a confrontation between Gamble and law enforcement that has since sparked debate across the country. The central question now is whether this was a lawful police action or a violation of constitutional rights. Now, I'm going to play the news video about this story to give the backstory, to give some context. And immediately after the news story, you will see for several minutes most of the body cam video showing the interaction. After that, we're going to do a lengthy breakdown on the legal issues and analysis on this very interesting area of law.
Tonight, a Fairhope woman is facing charges after police say she wore a penis costume at a public protest.
It's all happening Saturday at the No Kings rally in Fairhope. Police say they requested Gina Gamble take off the costume, but she refused.
Our Natalie Williamson is live in the studio with this late reporting. And Natalie, it sparked some controversy.
Yeah, it really has, Lenise and Cameron, and some people say Gamble had every right to wear the costume and express her thoughts, while others tell me it crossed a line.
Tonight, a Fairhope woman arrested for wearing a penis costume at a public protest, causing controversy. According to Fairhope police, 61-year-old Renea Gamble was arrested Saturday at the No Kings protest and charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest after wearing the phallic costume. Authorities say it's considered obscene since she was wearing it in public. This video, taken by someone driving by, shows dozens of people at the intersection of Highway 98 and Fairhope Avenue holding signs saying "No Kings" and "No Dictators," while horns were honked and people cheered. On the other side were counter-protesters like Rebecca Watson, holding signs saying "Jesus, the only real king," and waving Trump flags. Watson says while she's thankful to see many people practice their First Amendment right, a boundary was crossed.
I didn't expect anything like that to happen in Fairhope, but you know, we all have different ideas of what a peaceful protest looks like, and maybe what's even appropriate for children. But I think that there is a clear line between free expression and public obscenity, and we have that line for a reason.
Another person who didn't want to go on camera says they believe Gamble had every right to wear the costume and voice her thoughts, but chose the wrong venue. Fairhope police say an officer asked Gamble to take off her costume, but she refused. Video shows 3 officers trying to arrest Gamble here on the side of Highway 98 while she's face down on the ground. Watson tells me although she didn't see the arrest, she heard what she describes as people being disrespectful to police.
I was appalled at the way that the people were shouting at the police officers and the things that were being said to them. They are the heartbeat of our community, always serving people. So I've never witnessed them being aggressive or eager to arrest anybody.
I've reached out to Gamble to try and get her side of the story, but haven't heard back. Lenise, Cameron.
If my kids had to come by and see this, how would you explain it to them? I'm telling you right now.
Trying to behave.
Got it? Yep.
I'm an American. Who knew?
Hurry up.
On the 18th of October 2025, Fairhope police officers responded to a political demonstration along Greeno Road in Alabama during the No Kings rally. Among the protesters was a 61-year-old woman wearing a controversial costume while holding a political sign. What began as a peaceful protest quickly escalated into an unexpected confrontation after an officer determined her outfit was inappropriate.
If my kids had to come by and see this, how would you explain it to them?
Are you recording?
I am recording. I'm recording right here. I am telling you right now, if my kids had to come by and see this, I would like to hear how you would explain to my children what you're supposed to be.
What a pun is?
I want you.
Understand what a pun is?
Let me get another unit over here. I want you to tell me. I want you to tell me why.
Being detained is not. I'm going to go ahead and go this way.
I'm telling you right now. I am telling you right now. Turn over. On your belly. On your belly. On your belly. I told her to take it off. Give me your arm. Give me your arm.
She's going to take it off.
Give me your arm. I want your arm now. I need somebody. Give me your arm now.
She was walking away.
I told her to take it off.
Right here. And what ordinance was she in violation of?
It's disorderly conduct.
You could not cite.
It's disorderly conduct.
I checked.
All right, grab this arm.
Trying to behave.
Got it. Yep.
15 seconds as he was walking away.
Other arm. Let me have your other arm. Thank you. This is a family town, and I'm not going to have somebody out here dressed like this. You understand? This isn't abusive. Here, back up. Give us some space. All right. Come on, have a seat.
Watch your step.
I can't see anything.
Now, I'd like for her to take this off.
I know, they can't see the side of ordinance. They never can.
Where? There you are. Can you see me? Okay.
Now I can.
Sit back. Sit back. Now, what you're going to do...
That's as high as my butt goes.
I understand.
And it's cramping my leg.
I know. Listen to me. We're kind of having to fight this suit. So I want you to sit back. You're going to... This leg right here. You feel my leg right here?
I do.
I want you to raise this leg until it's on mine. There you go. And then you're going to slide straight back in, okay?
Oh, can somebody pull me in? I can't slide because my hands are fixing to bleed from these things.
Stand up. Okay. Stand straight up. I get it. We're going to rock that over here. All right, come with me.
What are the charges?
Hey, you roll that up.
What are my charges?
Get the unlock.
Got it?
Yep.
I can go to the other side. We might do it.
Hey, I need you to get back, okay? I need you to get back. Okay? I need you to get back. All right, step in. Pick up your foot. There you go. Step in.
Ah, my head! I am an ASL interpreter and my hands are killing me.
Turn around. Turn around. Scoot back in. Scoot back in. Scoot back in.
I am trying.
He's going to help you. The officer's going to help you.
I can't. I can't.
You got to get this suit off. Yep. All right.
I'm going to get the suit out. Come on, step
Can my
out.
person get my suit off?
No, we're going to take it off of you. Come on, step out.
Take the suit off.
All right, uncover. All right. Uncover and let's take the suit off.
Okay. Ultron backing up first, please.
So they've not done anything.
I'm going to take these hands.
Okay. That's fine. We're going to get legal. I got you. You can stand over at the sidewalk right now. You cannot stand this close.
Why not?
Again, for officer safety reasons, you guys got to back up.
I'm her husband.
Okay.
Stay right here. Don't move, okay?
Back up to the sidewalk right now, please.
All right, got the handcuffs off. You're going to take this off. What's your name?
Aunt Tifa.
Aunt Tifa. Can you tell me where the zipper to this is?
It's in the bag.
Okay. Aunt Tifa, I'm not trying to be difficult with you, ma'am. I'm trying to... No, I'm not trying to violate your freedom of speech. I'm trying to preserve a town that has values. All right, put your head down. Put your head down. We're going to come over the top. Put your head down.
I got in. Let me put that.
Okay, all right. You're exactly right. All right. Let it drop past your feet, okay? Pull your feet out.
Right here, not below.
Pull your feet out.
Step out of it.
Pull your feet out.
Oh, wait. What is that? My American flag shoes. What? I'm an American? I'm an American. Who knew?
Hurry up.
Who knew? I have rights. Who knew?
All right. No, leave that there. We'll take it. Step over. We'll grab it. All right.
You're going to take my property
put 'em-
too?
All right, turn around. Hey, put them on the front. Put them on the front. They're awesome. Hands in the front.
Fairhope. In Fairhope. A single tax colony. The children have been cheering me on. I walked from...
To understand the legal issues, we start with the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects freedom of speech, including political expression, and especially criticism of public officials. Courts have consistently held that political speech is at the core of what the Constitution protects. It's a growing area of my civil rights practice. This protection includes holding protest signs, wearing symbolic clothing or costumes, and participating in peaceful demonstrations. Expressive conduct, such as wearing an inflatable costume to make a political point, can qualify as protected speech under the law. However, these rights are not unlimited. Local governments are allowed to enforce what are known as time, place, and manner restrictions. This means police can legally intervene if a protest blocks traffic unlawfully, creates a public safety hazard or violates local ordinances. If Gamble's actions were considered to interfere with traffic on Greeno Road or posed a safety concern, police may argue their intervention was justified. This is where the situation becomes more complex. A key question many people have is whether wearing a provocative or explicit costume, such as a penis-shaped inflatable outfit, is itself against the law. In most cases, the answer is no, not by itself. Simply wearing a costume, even one that is crude or suggestive, is generally protected if it is part of expressive or political conduct. Courts have repeatedly emphasized that the First Amendment protects not just polite or socially acceptable speech, but also speech that is offensive, satirical, or uncomfortable. However, legality can depend on context. If the conduct involves actual nudity, explicit sexual acts, or violates clearly defined public indecency laws, it could cross into unlawful behavior. If it is purely symbolic, exaggerated, or comedic, especially in a political protest, it is far more likely to remain protected. Please go back and look at the videos that I did on the recent case about Afro Man. The law draws a distinction between expression and actual lewd conduct, even if the expression mimics or suggests something sexual. This leads to a deeper and often controversial issue, which is the line between constitutionally protected speech and community concerns about morality, especially when children are present. As the officer asks in that body camera video, it's a fair question. What are my children to think if they see you wearing this outfit here in public? I understand the moral dilemma, but free speech and our First Amendment trumps morality to an extent. Many people argue that even if certain expression is legally protected, it may still be inappropriate in public spaces where minors are likely to be present. Again, as we just stated, this creates tension between constitutional rights and societal expectations. Go check out the videos that auditor channels, Otto the Watchdog and also the Random Patriot. And you will see what they do is they'll hold signs that say F the police and F cancer. Nobody calls the police when it says F cancer, but they do when it says F the police. And that shows that it's not content neutral when people call the police. It's about the content. The Supreme Court has addressed similar concerns in various contexts. While the government has greater authority to regulate obscene material and protect minors, it cannot simply suppress speech because it may be offensive to some viewers. Cohen versus California, this court made clear that the government cannot cleanse public discourse to protect unwilling viewers from offensive language. That is one of the seminal cases on free speech from the Supreme Court. The responsibility is often placed, at least in part, on individuals to avoid speech they find objectionable. At the same time, courts have recognized that states may have a legitimate interest in protecting children from certain types of exposure. The challenge is that any regulation aimed at protecting minors must still be narrowly tailored and cannot unnecessarily restrict protected speech for adults. Simply put, the presence of children does not erase First Amendment protections, but it can influence how courts evaluate certain restrictions. The difficulty of defining what is truly obscene or inappropriate is reflected in the famous statement by Potter Stewart in Jacob Ellis versus Ohio. I'm mispronouncing that for sure. Where he said he could not precisely define hardcore pornography, but, quote, I know it when I see it, end quote. That quote highlights the subjective nature of these judgments, especially when community standards and personal values come into play. The Supreme Court later attempted to clarify the law in Miller versus California, establishing a test that looks at community standards, offensiveness, and whether the material has serious value. In a political protest setting, that last factor is critical because political expression is given the highest level of protection under the Constitution. Figures like Larry Flint, who I discussed earlier and who I met, helped push these boundaries even further. In Hustler Magazine versus Falwell, one of the most famous cases on free speech, the court protected highly offensive parody targeting a public figure, reinforcing the principle that speech cannot be restricted simply because it is outrageous or morally controversial. Other cases further illustrate this principle. In Texas versus Johnson, the court protected flag burning as political expression. In Papish versus Board of Curators of the University of Missouri, The court protected the distribution of material containing indecent imagery because it conveyed a political message. These cases show that the First Amendment often protects expression that many people would consider inappropriate, especially when it is tied to political speech. At the same time, many cities and towns have local ordinances that prohibit lewd conduct, indecent exposure, or disorderly behavior in public. These ordinances are often broadly written and give law enforcement discretion to respond to public complaints. However, that discretion has constitutional limits, and most of these police officers are poorly trained, or, to be honest with you, in a lot of these smaller towns are completely uneducated to understand a lot of this, and they are not in a position to be enforcing this. I'm being blunt about that. However, that discretion has constitutional limits. A local ordinance cannot be enforced in a way that infringes on protected speech. And in some cases, the ordinance itself may be challenged as unconstitutional. There are two major ways these ordinances can run into First Amendment problems. First, an ordinance may be considered overly broad if it prohibits a substantial amount of protected speech along with unprotected conduct. Second, it may be considered vague if it does not clearly define what is prohibited, leaving individuals uncertain about what behavior is illegal and giving police too much discretion in enforcement. If an ordinance is used to justify stopping or arresting a protester engaged in political expression, that enforcement can be challenged in court. In a civil rights lawsuit, a plaintiff like Gamble could argue not only that her individual rights were violated, but also that the ordinance itself is unconstitutional, either on its face or as applied to her conduct. Go look at another video that I did about Whistling Diesel and how the state of Tennessee want to do a gag order on him to prevent him from trying to talk about how the state of Tennessee is going after him regarding the issue of purchasing a Ferrari and the issue about paying the taxes on where you live and in what state. In these cases, a party can ask a federal court to step in and provide relief. This can include seeking a declaration that the ordinance violates the First Amendment, as well as an injunction preventing the city from enforcing it in the future. I have a few cases where we're going to be seeking such relief. If successful, the court can effectively strike down or limit the ordinance, which can have broader implications beyond a single case. There are several key legal questions that investigators and potentially courts would examine. The first question is whether Gamble was engaged in protected speech. If she was peacefully protesting without violating any laws, her actions are likely protected under the First Amendment. The second question is whether police had probable cause. Officers must have a valid legal reason to detain or arrest someone, and without it, the encounter could be unconstitutional. The third question is whether there was viewpoint discrimination. That's what I was discussing about earlier when I was discussing Otto the Watchdog and the Random Patriot channel, where they're holding the F the police or F cancer signs. That's what we refer to as viewpoint discrimination. So going back again to that third question is whether there was viewpoint discrimination. The government cannot target speech simply because it disagrees with the message. And if enforcement was triggered by the content of Gamble's sign, that raises serious constitutional concerns. The fourth question is whether excessive force was used. Even if police had a valid reason to intervene, the level of force must be reasonable under the circumstances. Please, in the comments, answer the four questions that I just asked and help me drive that algorithm. If Gamble were to pursue legal action, there are several potential civil rights claims she might raise. One of the most significant would be a First Amendment retaliation claim. This type of claim argues that a government official took adverse action against someone because of their protected speech. If Gamble can show that police targeted her specifically because of the political message on her sign, that could form the basis of a strong constitutional claim. She might also bring a claim for false arrest or unlawful detention under the Fourth Amendment. This would require showing that officers lacked probable cause to detain or arrest her. If no law was being broken and she was simply exercising her right to protest, detaining her could be considered unconstitutional. Another possible claim is excessive force. Even if police had a lawful reason to approach or detain her, the force used must be objectively reasonable under the circumstances. Courts evaluate this based on factors such as the severity of any alleged offense, whether the person posed a threat, and whether they were resisting. If the level of force appears disproportionate, that could support a civil rights claim. Here's a news story about where now the city is doubling down and the police as well, and they've come after Miss Gamble, adding additional charges. We'll talk more about legal issues on the other side.
It started out as a political statement.
She was there with a phallic costume on, holding an American flag and a sign that said, "No dictator."
It quickly became a legal matter for Renea Gamble, the woman wearing the phallic costume.
She says, "Am I being detained?" And he doesn't respond. So she turns to walk away. He then grabs her from behind, pulls her down onto the ground.
Gamble was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct and resisting an arrest.
Turn over, on your belly.
Now, months later, 2 additional charges filed, giving officers a false name and breaking a city ordinance related to disturbing the peace.
What's your name?
Aunt Tifa.
Aunt Tifa, can you tell me where the zipper to this is?
We spoke with Gamble's attorney, who says he's prepared to defend his client in court.
The whole point of the costume and the sign was, making the political point about the threat of a dictator. Even people that disagree with her politics say that she had a right to do what she did.
No, I'm not trying to violate your freedom of speech. I'm trying to preserve a town that has values.
Gamble's attorney says this case centers on constitutionally protected political speech and believes his client is not at fault.
It's not so much her as the Constitution that's on trial. If it's offensive to one person, I don't know if that means it's sufficiently offensive to be offensive to the community.
And Gamble will soon get her day in court. The trial set for Wednesday, March 4th. In Fairhope, Taylor Boyson, WKRG News 5.
There is also the possibility that Miss Gamble could have a claim based on viewpoint discrimination, which is closely tied to the First Amendment. The government is prohibited from favoring or suppressing speech based on the speaker's perspective. If evidence shows that Gamble was singled out because of her criticism of a political figure, that would raise serious constitutional concerns. In many cases like this, these claims are brought under federal civil rights law, specifically Section 1983, which allows individuals to sue government officials for violations of constitutional rights. However, officers may raise defenses such as qualified immunity, which protects them from liability unless they violated clearly established law. That legal battle often becomes a central issue in cases like this. One of the challenges that Ms. Gamble may have is that this is going to be Alabama and it's going to be conservative jury pool. This may be where one case that she may want the judge to hear the case and not a jury. Incidents like this matter far beyond one small town because they test the boundaries between law enforcement authority and individual rights. They also highlight an ongoing tension in constitutional law between protecting free expression and addressing community concerns about decency and exposure to children. For protesters, it is a reminder that while constitutional protections are strong, the way expression is perceived can still lead to legal conflict. For police, it is a balancing act between maintaining public safety, respecting constitutional rights, and responding to community standards. For the public, these moments shape how freedom of speech is interpreted and applied in real time. As more details emerge, this case could become a reference point for future protests and possibly even legal action. If you know Ms. Gamble, please have her reach out to me at Mumford Law. I might be interested in representing her on this case. It may also determine whether certain local ordinances can withstand constitutional scrutiny when applied to political expression. Understanding situations like this helps clarify not only what the law allows, but also how society navigates the difficult line between free speech, public decency, and the presence of children in shared public spaces. And these are all legitimate issues and concerns. Knowing your rights is the first step to protecting them. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please click like, share, and subscribe. And again, please answer the 4 questions that I asked a moment ago in the comments section and help me drive that algorithm. We're just about to pass 12,000 subscribers, but I really want to get to 20,000 if that's possible. I hope you have a wonderful day.